through a 71 tag there for Noah. And now he's going to get crash pad in. It doesn't matter though. Crash pad is actually going to send him away. He's got to keep the pressure up to keep this player from popping. And he's shielded. He's got the player back and forth, up and down, up and down. He's got the crash pad. He's going in. Shots are going to come through. The player puts the stair with the top of his head. It's another good tag there. Noah's not able to find it. Noah's not able to finish him off. This player continuously layer changing, going up and down in between the builds. And Hydro was just trying to run for their life.
Hydro trying to put as much distance as possible, and unfortunately going to go down there. Good job for Noah Riley on the chase. We talk about how important it is to resolve fights, particularly because you don't want that opponent burning those resources, because when you do take them down, they'll drop them there, and you want to get as much as possible. You see Noah picking up all of the minis there, back up to 6. Good job, so as 4 crash pads. And one thing you'll note in particular when you're looking at these mid-game fights and what you should be keeping an eye on. Anytime a player has crash pads, that will enable them to push the boxes. We've seen it in 2 different ways, both from the top down, where they throw it against one of those cones and lets it fall in, and then a perfect example, thank you Ross Orange for showing it right there, winning the fight against Hardflying, very close to 6 HP. That's a horizontal crash pad, where you line yourself up on the corner of the walls, throw it against that corner, and it'll end up landing right behind you and pushes you forward into the box, but it won't affect the other players. So it allows you to line up your shot ahead of time. Most times it'll also put you behind them, so they're not able to play defensively. As Orange trying to play defensively here, but Bafa just comes in and says, hey, you didn't have enough time to reset. You keep your shields up. I will take all that loot. Thank you very much.
That's the danger of taking the big game fight is if you take any damage, you're going to get third party. Players are going to recognize that shield crack down. They're going to move in. But on the other hand, look below it. He took that fight, got out, and now is on the move. The carrot is setting up an ambush for the shot.
Interesting.
Has been practically I am trying to pass him, and he's the stair with the top is not his. He does get a nice layer change coming out and above, but he doesn't have enough time to pop the big shield. He's just looking to try to pop another mini, and he does get it off. And now he's looking for a shot. He needs to put the pressure back on the Carrot, because if not, then he's just going to keep running around, and Carrot's finally going to be able to get a shot on him. And Carrot decides, you know what? Not worth my time, not worth my materials, not worth my HP. I'm going to disengage.
I'm 50-50 on that. It felt like if Carrot had kind of kept pressing, he might have been able to pick up Letwick, particularly because, look at Letwick, there are only 20 total builds coming out, but that also means if you are able to take him down, you're not going to necessarily get that much back. You'd only get the 35 total, and it's really not going to be that beneficial unless you're able to rotate cleanly off of it. Both have the crash pads, but now you can see fight going on here between Diablo and NXS Z-Andy. Z-Andy on the back foot here, and Diablo trying to push forward. Somebody we've seen had the capability of playing aggressively. He is above that Storm Surge threshold, so just trying to hunt this player and doing a good job of keeping Z-Andy on the back foot. Does get the cone replaced, owns both, edits back under. Z-Andy able to replace that stay there, so Diablo just going to reset for a second, make sure he's still back up at near that 100-100 threshold, and then Z-Andy going to go down. So good job making sure he picked that one up. Z-Andy was below that Storm Surge threshold. Diablo will see that coming through. The Storm Surge will take that over. So that's what we talk about right now. You can see on the right-hand side, Diablo is currently 130 damage above. Z-Andy was below, which means he takes that 25 damage every 10 seconds. And it also signals to Diablo, hey, I can just tag this guy up and then wait, because any damage he does for to that player, as long as they go down within a minute, he will still get credit for that elimination. He will still get the point. Then he can go over and safely pick up that loot.
That is another aspect of competitive Fortnite that everyone has to think about. That Storm Surge, it plays a factor into so many of these players' games. Sometimes they forget about it because they're pumping, they're rolling, they got their mats, they got their ammo, they got their builds, they're in zone. And then they're like, wait, I didn't tag anybody this game. I got to look for a tag. Frenzy Fishy on the other side above, and a good amount above. If you're about 100 to 150 above, you're looking at a good spot. As shots come through, he's going to take advantage and find swaps with one AR shot. That is what you needed. We saw Thomas H. do that in the first game. Just find any sort of elimination that you can, far away or up close. Don't even have to risk yourself getting tagged up for it. Beautiful elimination.
Yeah, but you notice how he's doing that behind a cone and editing a single wall. That's to avoid all of those hunting rifle headshots that we've seen come out time and time again. You don't want to get a game ender looking for some of those tags to make sure you're safe. But that being said, when we talk about tags and going through, that's generally meaning you're looking for long-range shots, not with the intention of actually trying to eliminate the opponent, but just doing some damage so you're not threatened by the Storm Surge, as Flois ends Froggy and puts a prime example of why you need a cone in a window and to limit the number of angles you have, because so many of these top-level players will be carrying those weapons, particularly in EU, that is known for their snipes and hitting their shots. Well done from the game number 1 winner, who's continuing to roll with the momentum here. Boxed up next to Arctic, passive over the side, as we're transitioning now into that mid-game kind of territory, as players are starting to get closer and looking for priority in terms of zone number 4.
What an elimination. He needed it too. He only had 2 hunting rifle shots. That first shot needed to hit. He didn't really have a chance to follow up if it didn't. Very heads-up play by Flois. First place, taking down second place. That's pretty good for your mentality. Even if he goes down here and be like, hey, I took out my competition, so I know I'm pretty secure there. But we're still pretty early on into the games, so you can't really do much with it.
And it's important to note when they stress during the top of show how every single interaction matters. Right there, Flois eliminating his direct competition right now, the player who is closest to him, who's able to pressure up. That means if he's able to build up a lead now, it's going to be that much more substantial, because effectively he's eliminated one of the players who can threaten him the most, as now we're on board here with ADN. We saw him have an amazing run yesterday, pushing in. Right there, you can see the Dorito edit being taken down, and that's such a good push. Fastroki was looking to set up a crash pad there with that edited cone in his box, but ADN dropped in and then occupied the space, stuck to the AR, and then just used the weapon to close it out. Well done getting a key pick there in a mid-circle.
And he desperately needed his mats were not looking good. Still are not looking good as well. So he's going to have to find another impact elimination along the way, as we're on board here with Ardent. Again, mats are not looking good. Now, there is a player's loot there in front of him that he more likely got the elim from. He's not actually prioritizing picking it up right now. It seems like he's just looking to build and then go for the loot. Mr. X is nearby. Benji's nearby as well. Hardest in an awkward spot. We've got Scram in this game here as well. Handy, passive, slick. A lot of players still alive. 61. When we talk about Storm Surge, this is a threshold where it's 50. 11 players need to go down. Darda makes a heads-up play to get a box, and Crashpad's going to come through, but that's bad for him. Unless he hits the shot. Shots come through, and he does. Maestro going to go down the aggressive play, not going to be rewarded. And Ardent will be rewarded for his passiveness.
Yeah, and you can see the reason why so many players are fighting right now, both that Storm Surge and trying to get priority. We talk about fourth zone. Look in the bottom right-hand corner. Everyone is looking to box up and stake their claim on as much real estate as possible for when that half-in, half-out reveals. You don't want to be sharing a spot next to somebody as you go to rotate, and they're looking to clear out the players nearby as Ardent picks up Flois there. So 1 and 2 are down. That's going to open up the leaderboard. Tons of players will have an opportunity to charge up. Eyes are now on Hen and whether or not he can kind of extend his lead out there, as Ardent also picks up Lecce. Mongrel getting scout there in a brilliant job, because he's now cleared out all the players on this tarp. In that next, the half-in, half-out, the one before moving, is pulling directly over to this cluster of players. So Tayson, Benji, Keelix, Wyzip, Mr. X will all be over there sharing the half-in, half-out with Ardent. They all have priority on everyone else who's rotating into the zone. So they're going to be fighting among themselves to make sure they're safe and not going to get ambushed, and then swap over to what Tayson's doing now and looking to catch the players, burning their rotation, burning launch pads and crash pads, trying to get into this zone.
And this is very lucky for Tayson, because, again, express the amount of builds in the inventory. He only had 54. That is not where you want to be for this endgame. So he has to find an elimination to get to these moving zones effectively. He does have the 6 crash pads, but when you start to use those crash pads, you start wasting those builds as you box up, and he needs to find somebody. As shots come through, he's not going to be able to see Nebby, unfortunately, falling, but he did get that top 50 placement threshold, which is what a lot of people are playing that consistency. Hey,